Hello my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/MaliciousCompliance, where people on purpose follow orders despite the ones they hate. And in today's episode, we've got Karens, bad bosses, and landlords all getting taught lessons they won't forget. The stories are so satisfying today. So yeah, sit back, relax, and try not to shake your heads too hard at some of these posts. Let's dive in. Here's the background. I work nights at a small grocery store near me. I have a full-time job during the day, and I head over to this retail job at night, and I work 6 to 10 p.m. as a cashier. Most weeknights, it's extremely slow. I'm talking maybe 2 to 3 customers per hour after 8 p.m. And we're told as long as there's no customers around or waiting to be cashed out, you can be on your phone or talking and hanging out. So it's a typical Wednesday night. It's about 8:45 p.m. and there's only a few customers walking around the store. We have 3 cashiers, 2 female, 1 male, me included. Most of the time, we don't stand behind our registers waiting for people to walk up. We kind of group up together and we chat, or we lean up against one of the racks and do stuff on our phones. In this particular scenario, the only male front-end employee was on self-checkout, and he was using scissors to trim the edges of ripped-out coupons, while the remaining staff, all female, were chatting or on their phones. I was reading a book on my phone. All of a sudden, one of the store managers, Ted, walks over to where most of us are congregated, and he asked us to come near him. The conversation goes like this. He says to us, "Hey guys, so we just got a big complaint." A customer said that she's tired of coming in here at night and seeing all the women on their phones and screwing around, while all the men are doing the work. She said all the female employees are so lazy and ignored her when she had a question, and they should be put to work while the men get to take a break. I explained the store policy about downtime, but she's apparently only seen female employees on their phones, and she's claimed it's not a fair policy and it should be changed to include all male employees. Me flabbergasted, then say, what the heck is she talking about? We were told that we're allowed to have our phones out if there's no people, and nobody's come up and asked us anything. Most of the store staff, aside from the front end, is male, so... Ted goes on and says, "I know, but can you be kind of discreet?" I begin to ask who she is, but he cuts me off and says, "I'm not telling you who she is. She wanted to remain anonymous." Most of us roll our eyes, but nod at him, and you could tell he didn't give a rat's patootie about what she had to say. Now, while Ted didn't tell us who this complaining customer was, there was only 2 people in the store at this time. One was a guy, so process of elimination. Sure enough, 15 minutes later, Karen struts her way down my lane with her nose in the air and a satisfied smirk on her lips. The woman drops all of her groceries on the belt. I give her a customer service voice and a fake smile, but I keep seeing her side-eye my phone where it's sitting. I cash her out, she snatches the receipt, and she stomps out, not saying a word, but making sure to shoot my other female coworkers a dirty look as she leaves. She's a repeat customer. I've seen her in here quite a few times during my shifts at night, and I recognize her as the same woman who consistently complains about only the female staff. Almost every woman that works on the store floor, me included, has had at least one nasty run-in with this woman. So I turn to my fellow employees and a grin spreads on my face. I'm thinking, it's on. So fast forward about a week later. It's a Monday night and I'm working my normal 6 to 10 shift, but this time, it's me, 2 male cashiers, a female senior cashier, and a male front-end manager. All of the stalkers are male that night, and they're all in on what I've been planning and waiting to execute. I look up around 9 p.m. and I see none other than Karen strutting through the front doors, and I thought, it's go time. The front-end manager hops on the walkie-talkie to all the stalking crew, telling them that Special K is in the store. Immediately, all of the stalkers drop what they're doing and they pull out their phones. They start leaning against the shelves while playing around. It takes Karen a good 20 minutes to make her way through the store. And I later find out that she walked through almost every aisle and she saw 6 out of 7 stock guys on their phone, including the deli, who all ignored her. The second she rounds the corner to come to the front with her purchases, me and the senior female cashier both get to work. We've got our head down and we're cleaning the registers and the neighboring ones that are open, the whole time trying not to laugh, while the 3 male employees just stand in a circle on their phones. Karen walks down one of the lanes and she drops her stuff, but none of my male associates pay her any attention. Karen then clears her throat and she turns to Savannah, my coworker, who's cleaning the lane next to the one she's standing at, and I can hear her clear as day. She screams and says, "Excuse me, someone ring up my items." That's when Savannah, in her most exaggerated customer service voice, tells Karen, "I'm so sorry, miss. I'm cleaning like I'm supposed to. One of the guys is on that register." She points to the group of male employees who all look up from their phones and blink at her. Eric, being the brave one of the group, and who just so happens to be on that register, just smiles at her and says, "I'll be right there, ma'am. We're taking a much-deserved break." He then looks back down at his phone. The woman just starts stammering, and she starts ranting how this is unacceptable, that the men in this store have always been so helpful. She then demands to see a manager who also happens to be female that night and in on our plan. Nick, the customer service manager, tells her with a straight face that Emily's currently unloading one of the trucks in the back and she can't leave the merchandise, but he'd be glad to provide her the customer service number if she'd like to make a complaint. She accepts that and he hands her one of the business cards with the number on it. I give them a cutoff signal, and that's when the charade ends. Eric walks over and begins cashing her out, the same bright smile on his face. Karen, meanwhile, is grumbling under her breath how useless and rude the employees have been. When Eric hands her the receipt, he looks her dead in the eyes and he goes for the kill shot. He then tells Karen, "Well, ma'am, because of your complaint, we're just making sure that all of the men get their deserved breaks while the ladies do the work." Her face turns red and her expression drops as she quickly grabs her bags and rushes out the store. I haven't seen her since, and she's never called the customer service number to complain. What a brilliant compliance that was, guys, and what made it so good was that all the staff, including managers, band together to teach her a lesson. You don't see that every day. That said, what a code name that was, hey? Calling her Special K. People are just so creative. The contract of the apartment that I've been living in for the past year recently ended. I had, however, forgotten about the 60 days written move-out notice until I was reminded by management 10 days before I turned in my notice. Though it is specified in the contract and it's my responsibility as a tenant to maintain them, I was still livid by the fact that they didn't have the courtesy to remind me all the 3 times they contacted me about renewing my contract and me verbally declining. All 3 times they said that they had taken a note of it, and me being the fool that I am, I believed them. Since I didn't provide the 60 days move-out notice in writing, I was forced to pay an extra month rent that, regardless of my moaning and crying, was not waived. Throughout my panic, they kept reminding me that it was in the contract and they couldn't do anything about it. Since I had to pay an extra month, I decided that I was going to do everything in my power to get my deposit back, cueing this malicious compliance. I went through the entire contract. The contract specified that I was allowed to be present during the inspection as long as I provided a written notice in advance. It also stated that I had the right to any information extracted from the inspection. The contract also specified that the apartment had to be left in the same condition it was received, and that I was responsible for any cleaning fees from services they'd have to use. Before I start the juicy part of the story, I do have to mention that I took detailed pictures and videos of the apartment when I moved in. Unfortunately, mine was incredibly dirty. There was even food on the carpets. I requested it to be cleaned, but they never did anything, so I took care of it since I'm terrified of confrontation, lol. But I still saved and recorded anything that wasn't okay, regardless of how mild it was. The day I read the contract, I emailed them requesting to be present during the inspection, and that I wanted a copy of everything obtained from that inspection to compare with my notes. They didn't respond that day, so I took it upon myself to email them every day for the next 4 days, until they got back to me with the following reply. They wrote back and said, per the rental agreement, section so-and-so, move-out inspection, you may be present at move-out inspection if you notify us in advance in writing of your request. OP, you turned your keys into the Dropbox on this date, and you never requested a walkthrough. The walkthrough inspection was already completed this morning. So I obviously forwarded all my previous emails asking if those were not considered in writing. They then offered to redo the inspection with me present, but I was out of town, so I requested all the data they obtained from it instead, to which they agreed. And to this day, I haven't received anything from the inspection, but I did find out that they didn't actually do it until 3 days after they said they did on the email. I know this because of the bill they sent charging me cleaning fees and no deposit back. I was like, okay, since you're not gonna send me what I asked for, I'm going to send you what I have. I highlighted the part where they lied to me about the inspection date. I then attached pictures of how I received the apartment compared to how I left it, which is very clean. I also made sure to include their timestamps. I then advised that per the contract, there's no reason for them to charge me cleaning fees since it was in much better condition than received. I also demanded my deposit back and sent them receipts of all the products I used to clean the apartment, including a new expensive vacuum, so if they could refund me at their earliest convenience, that would be great, or I'd contact corporate directly. I also advised that I would send them all the communication we've ever had, the lies they've told me, and the rest of the images and videos I have of the apartment. I honestly have no idea if I would have gotten anywhere contacting corporate, but it doesn't matter, because within 24 hours I got my full deposit back, and I got refunded for everything I spent on cleaning supplies, including my new expensive vacuum. I did leave a review on every site I could find, but the Google one got removed for some reason. I don't know how much time OP has, but if that were me, I would continue posting the reviews and continuing to repost it every time it gets taken down. But seriously, the crap that some scummy landlords pull never ceases to amaze me. Like so many of them are relying on renters being naive to keep the cash. That said, way to go on OP's part for documenting everything and getting the deposit back and then some. It just sucks they had to pay the extra month of rent. And this person comments, in some states, what they did is blatantly illegal. Where I live, if they don't put your money in escrow, you're eligible for triple damages. If they don't itemize the damages or return your deposit in 30 days, that's triple damages. But yeah, leave your thoughts and comments down below, guys. Have you ever been screwed over by a shady landlord? I work at a family-owned video game store in a big shopping strip at the beach. We're 80% retro stuff, but we always take modern games and consoles because they move quick, especially these days. The day this happened, I'm working my Tuesday opening shift, when one of my favorite regulars, an old gentleman that loves talking movies with me, and a woman who I'll be referring to as Country Karen due to her accent, comes in the store. I say hi to the regular, and Country Karen comes to the counter. I tell him I'll be back once I'm done. Regular goes to check out our Blu-ray trades from the weekend. Country Karen then starts to explain that she bought 2 Nintendo Switch Lites for her nephews, not realizing that they already had a regular Switch in the house. She says the kids lost the receipt, so she can't return it, and she wants to know what I can do for a cash trade-in. She does seem a bit frazzled, but I chalk it up to stress and annoyance at her situation, since she explains she just came in from being told no at Target. I take the Switch Lite and take it out of the box. It's about as factory new as it gets, only with a small tear on the box and a few kid-sized fingerprints on the screen that I can just wipe off. She says she just wants as much money back as she can at this point. I pull up the trade sheet to double check our trade rates. At the time this occurred, if I remember correctly, a Switch Lite retailed for $200. We normally sell used ones at $180 and give a $100 store credit or $80 cash. Since the Switch Lite is basically factory new with the box, I decide to give her a bit of a deal. I say to Karen, well, normally, Switch Lites only trade for $80 cash, but I can do $110 for this because it's a popular color and it's in really good condition with the box. Hearing me say that, Karen says, "What? That's so low. GameStop has a promotion and they'll give me $140 for it. Can't you do any better?" Now, normally, we try to beat GameStop's everything by at least 15%, but being corporate with more employees and less stock per store, they can get specials and promotions done that we can't. Plus, we can only match them on trade value for newer consoles. I of course explain this to Country Karen, and she goes from frazzled and a little impatient to, well, a Country Karen. She tells me, "Wow, I thought you guys would be better than GameStop since you're a small business, but if you're going to nickel and dime me, I'll just go to them from now on." I just audibly scoff at this woman's rudeness, and I tell her, good luck. And this is a perk of working at a family-owned. I don't have to lie down and take the crappy behavior. The woman gives me a nasty look, and she picks up her Switch Lite, and she leaves the store. There's a couple in line behind her, so once she's gone, I start helping them. The regular brings up a few movie trades, and all four of us start talking movies while I get the games done. I'm about halfway done with the second customer, and that's when Country Karen returns, looking very unhappy. I put on my best customer service smile, and I say, "Welcome back." The woman ignores me, and she cuts past the rest of the line. She screams at me and says, "I need to trade this now. I have to pick up my nephews from daycare and I need gas money, and GameStop said their promotion's over." I reply, "I'm so sorry to hear that, but I've got other customers I'm helping right now. You'll have to get in line." She then starts screaming and says, "I said trade this now. They're out soon and all this running around is going to make me late." I look at the gentleman I'm helping, who just shrugs and says he doesn't mind. And then at the four other people in line, patiently waiting their turns. They all agree that I can help her first, but they're all giving Country Karen the audacity of this bitch face I've ever seen. Since it's just one item and normally only takes a minute, I tell Country Karen, fine, I'll ring her through real quick. I suspend the current trade and I take the Nintendo. I double check it, then add it to the system and ask Country Karen for ID, which she loudly sighs about and takes a minute digging through her purse to find. Karen finally finds her ID and she hands it over. I enter her info, up the trade of the Switch Lite to $110 and tell her the total. Much to my surprise, the woman balks as if I just pissed in her morning macchiato. She indignantly states, "You told me $150 earlier." "I want the money you said I'd get the first time I came in here." I reply, "Ma'am, I said $110 because it's..." She then stops me and says, "No, you told me that, and I want the money you said I'd get the first time or there's going to be an issue." Now that's complete BS, but Country Karen keeps insisting I told her that amount, which I never would have. At this point, both I and the next guy in line are done with Country Karen. The man loudly sighs and he says, "Come on, man." But Country Karen either can't hear him or she doesn't care. I, on the other hand, give Country Karen another winning service smile. I say, "You want the first price I gave you? Sure, your trade's gonna be $80 cash then." I can see the few brain cells trying to process how the value has gone down instead of up. She then says, "That's less. I want more money for this." And at this point, she's yelling in the store. That's when I tell Karen, "I told you that normally Switch Lites trade for $80 cash, but that I'd cut you a deal for $110 cash. If you want the amount I told you the first time, that's $80. My regular and one of the first two trade guys are still near the till, and they both pipe up to support me and say I did in fact give her those numbers. Country Karen, red in the face and realizing her mistake, starts to backpedal. She screams and says, "Fine, if you're going to be so stupid about this, just give me the $110 so I can leave already." That's when I tell her, "No ma'am, you were very firm about wanting the first amount, so it'll be $80 cash for the trade." Country Karen looks like she's about to explode before she checks the time on her phone and she deflates. She says, "Okay, just give me the effing money." I respond, "Absolutely." I ring the transaction out for $80 and make her sign the receipt saying she agrees to the trade, and then loudly count out $80 in cash in 20s for her, which she then snatches off the counter and storms out the store with. As soon as she leaves, the next guy in line just leans over the box of games on the counter and he starts laughing his ass off. Yet another sneaky Karen's plan backfiring so hard. I just love the fact that she tried to get more money out of the trade by lying about what OP said. But yeah, let this be a lesson here. Maybe don't be incredibly rude to the person who's in a position to help you, because you might just screw yourself over. I've been working with a home health agency for the better part of 9 months. I work 12-hour days with cases ranging from complex to simple. In that time, I've worked 11 unscheduled doubles, 42 additional 12-hour overtime shifts, and I've used exactly 2 sick days. I used one for myself and one for my kid. I don't call out, I don't show up late, and I don't do the corner cutting they suggest. I take vacation time on my off days. I have also saved them on 3 specific occasions from failing audits. Now, I picked up so much because A, the money is nice, B, I legitimately care about the well-being of my patients, and C, they begged me. You see, the company I worked for likes to take on new clients without having enough staff to cover that patient. Then, they'll freak out and offer bonuses for us to pick up. These are governmentally contracted jobs with big DOE bucks coming in. If they can't prove the patient's taken care of, they're fined heavily. Too many fines, and they're blackballed from taking new DOE clients at all. With that said, this company's so poorly run, it's a joke. They have 8 schedulers, but still send mass texts every single day asking us to pick up, and these happen all hours of day and night. They often double book or randomly change schedules without informing clients or nurses. They also underpay for my area. Not much, but paying $4 less an hour is a big deal. They also won't respond to your questions, calls, or texts for days to weeks at a time. I've been looking around for a while, and I found a company that pays more, has good leadership, and they said they'd have me on the ground running closer to home if I went through with their hiring program. I agreed, and I've been an employee with them for about a month, just no hours worked yet. So back to my malicious compliance. I knew that I would be out of town for a couple of days, and I have 9 days worth of paid time off banked. I decided to help them out, and I asked for 3 days off. I assumed that would give them enough time to fill my spot. I did this on the 13th of the month. The days I requested are 12, 13, and 14. It's a mini vacation for my family since I work all the time. Well, on Monday, I receive a nasty email about the final day for days off requests being the 10th. I let the manager know that I was trying to help them out by giving them time to fill it. She just shot back with how selfish it was of me to leave her short-handed. She then rejected my paid time off request. The following day, I show up at the office to discuss this little frustration. I mentioned my exemplary work history and the intention of making things easier for them. She slams the table with her balled fist and she said, "You will work those days. I don't care if you have a trip planned to Australia, you will be there. If you don't like it, you can just leave. We'll hire someone else who wants to work." Now, it was her nasty smirk that set me off. I stood up, took a mint, and I said, "As you wish. I expect all my paid time off to be on my next paycheck in accordance with our state's paid time off laws. I hope you can fill the opening on such a short notice." The look of shock on her face was more valuable than my paid time off. In the past 24 hours, I've received no less than 19 voicemails asking if I can please come into work because they're short-handed. Tonight's my first night with the new company. It ends up being $6 an hour more, 48 minutes each way, which is closer to home, and I get paid 40 hours even though I work 36. Again, another lesson that needs to be learned. Be careful what you wish for because you may just get it, especially if you're an a-hole boss. And also, don't take employees for granted. Like, you'd think that OP's boss would recognize OP as a person who often goes above and beyond and does everything. But no, let's just treat them like crap and give them an ultimatum and then panic when they leave. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I just love the stories where bosses end up begging for the workers to come back. And 19 voicemails in 24 hours after leaving. Well done, OP. So I used to work at McDonald's, and we'd change toys every month or so. We'd market movies and shows with toys, as most people would know. Sometimes, we wouldn't just have kids' toys like My Little Pony or Shopkins. We had a policy that the toys were not boy or girl, since sometimes girls wanted the monster truck or boys wanted the pony. I didn't have a problem with it since I'm a girl and I love Transformers and stuff that's traditionally boy-marketed toys. We'd have to ask something like, and does your child want the Hot Wheels or the My Little Pony toy? That way, the child can ask for what they want. It was nice to see that some parents were being open-minded and getting their kids whatever toy they liked, but some parents didn't. So one month, we had My Little Pony and Transformers. I love Transformers, and I watched them when I was a kid with my brother, and mind you, this was the original cartoon that aired in 1984. So when the toy was released, I'm not ashamed to say that I bought them all. I was working the front counter and taking orders when a mom and her daughter came up. They order food, and when the Happy Meal rolls up, I turned and I asked the girl which toy she wanted. I like doing this because a petty side of me doesn't want to go through the parents. The girl said that she wanted the robots, aka the Transformers toy. I was so excited that another girl liked Transformers, but my happiness was instantly deflated when the mom said, "That's a stupid boy toy, you're not a boy." And hearing that, I was fuming. My head could have exploded. I had so much to say at that moment, but I couldn't. Not to mention the look on the girl's face crushed me. Memories of being picked on for liking Transformers and Power Rangers filled my head. I begrudgingly selected the other toy, which was the My Little Pony toy. Now keep in mind that these toys have to be small to fit in the box, otherwise it won't close. Just after I finish her order, my manager told me it's time for my break. There was one last toy on the Transformers list that I was gonna buy. When I was getting my food ordered, I saw that the woman and her kid were getting their food. After I got my order taken, the woman came back to the counter and she says, "Are these the only toys you have?" Manager says, "For right now, yes." She then says, "These are tiny. Is that all there is?" Manager, a little shocked, replies, "Yes, that's how they come." The lady then ranted how she should get 2 of them as the toys before were bigger, and the price of the Happy Meal is way too much for such tiny toys. They argue a bit before the woman just storms back to her table. Looking at the toy in my hand, I had the most perfect idea. I walked over to the table and I hand the Transformer toy to the girl. I'll always remember the pure look of joy on her face when I said, "Your mommy said you need another toy, so you can have mine. I hope you like it." The little girl smiled, and I kid you not, she said, "I got the pony and the toy I wanted." And I just felt so happy in that moment. Guys, the wholesome compliances are truly the best ones, aren't they? And I just love how OP made that girl's day, and hopefully that's something she remembers to this day. But yeah, you guys have said that you love the wholesome stories as much as the crazy Karen stories. And it is nice to once in a while read a post that restores faith in humanity. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/MaliciousCompliance. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed yesterday's episode, it's an r/EntitledPeople episode, where OP tells a wild tale of how she was a slave to her boss. It's such a wild episode, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.